let's start with the two injured players. And the first one, both hamstring injuries, I do believe. First one's backup center, backup interior offensive lineman Monk, put on IR with a hamstring injury. So he will miss at least the first 4 games. It's short-term IR. Obviously, COVID changed all these rules. So if you think about IR in previous seasons, a long time ago, IR is like, oh, they're done. That's not the case anymore. So now, after this 4 weeks, after the first 4 games, their practice window will open. And that means they have 21 weeks to either be signed to the active roster
21 days.
Or at 21 days. Yeah, not weeks. 21 days to be signed to the active roster, or then at that point they're shut down for the remainder of the season. So Monk, after game number 4, will then get a hard look to see when and if he can return. And the Packers have a week 5 bye, I do believe. So
yep.
For both of these injured guys, I'm sure they'll get an extensive look during that off week. And the other one, unfortunately, is no stranger to IR. No surprise. It certainly helped the Packers' decision-making for the final roster. And we've talked about this as a possibility previously. But Marshawn Lloyd, once again, back on IR, has spent far more time on IR than the active roster. Hamstring injury. And from everything I have heard, there's a decent chance he misses more than those 4 weeks. So
yep.
That stinks. That sucks, is what it is. But then the results of that running back battle, then we were talking about, it really is Wilson versus Brooks for that running back 3 job. We said Abani Kanda, while he looked good, had no shot to make the roster. And we were correct. And Wilson and Brooks are both rounding out that backfield with Josh Jacobs, obviously. I assume, it's not a surprise. It's more of the same, I guess, but it feels like the right decision, right, Luke?
Yeah, injuries are never right. Never a great thing, but I think Marshawn Lloyd going on IR right away saved the Packers from making a really tough decision. Given that they
Mm-hmm.
both right, we talked about how long Packers love Manuel Wilson, they love Chris Brooks. They get to keep him around, at least for 4 more weeks. So when Marshawn Lloyd inevitably, and maybe to your point, Zach, maybe it's more of a thing where maybe we don't see Marshawn Lloyd this year, and we can continue to kick the can on the running back conversation down the road. But if he comes back, let's say that week 6, right after the bye, what happens to the running back room then? Again, if either of them get, either Wilson or Brooks get cut, I would imagine they're immediately picked up. They're both good players. They both are, not NFL caliber players. Manuel Wilson's probably more of the starting running back kind of guy. Not that he's Derrick Henry or anything, but he's definitely, there's a place for him in the league to run the ball. So yeah, it's a good decision. And again, it's a decision that is kind of like the grace of God. Let's keep our guys happy for one more year, and continue to kick this can down the road until we have to make a decision.
Right. Yeah. And even though Lloyd could miss more than 4 weeks, it sounds like he could. I don't think this is a season-ending thing. It's just a nagging thing, and they need Packers are in a position where they want to get their guy right before they bring him back. Because of his injury history, because of the player he is, the Packers are not going to rush Marshawn Lloyd back, obviously. So,
well, I think
yeah.
To the credit of Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks too, like there's really no need to rush Marshawn Lloyd back, right? The Packers for where they're at. If feeling comfortable at a running back room, like they ran the ball great last year. Of course, the whole Josh Jacobs carry situation looms over your head, right?
Right.
But in terms of like needing a running back to play, you don't necessarily need Marshawn Lloyd to play, immediately. Why not get him healthy until he's geared up and ready to go? Is that ever going to happen? Who knows? But I don't think this is a situation where Green Bay is going to jump at any chance to reactivate him as soon as they can.
I think I disagree, but because I labeled Marshawn Lloyd as the X factor on this Packers offense. So I think they put a lot of stock in him being healthy and him being that lightning to Josh Jacobs' thunder. And I don't think Emmanuel Wilson, I think he's a great runner. I don't think he provides anything that Josh Jacobs can't do. And then I don't think Chris Brooks is an especially good runner. I think he's good at everything else. So Like I think the Packers need Marshawn Lloyd because I don't think this offense got any better. I think Golden's good, um,
Yeah, I guess
but it
to
doesn't matter.
I guess to that point, and the point I was trying to make is right. This is an offense that made the playoffs last year. You know, is it a Super Bowl winning offense? I mean, not along with the big dogs, but again, to play winning football, I don't necessarily think that Marshawn Lloyd is the guy who's going to get you to the you know the 14 game threshold. I like the running backs that we have now. I
No,
mean, it's 10, 11 wins.
yeah, and that's optimistic. No, I don't think Marshawn Lloyd is like, oh, and now the Packers compete for a Super Bowl. But I do think he was very much in the Packers' plans,
Yeah, for sure.
and I don't think they had a backup plan. And to the point of they just were running it back with that same backfield, and it is what it is. And again, they're not bad players, but would I be surprised if they end up making another move? Probably not. But we shall see.
They're not bad
Uh,
players. They just don't move the needle.
no, and they don't make you better. They're not. They're there. They fill the need of a backup running back, and that's the reason why we'll see Josh Jacobs push 25 touches a game. They're going to give him
Yeah,
all he can handle now, and hopefully the wheels do not fall off.
yeah, I was gonna bring that up too. Like in fantasy football talks, like Josh Jacobs should be, you know, his I imagine an ADP probably shoots up a little bit with Marshawn Lloyd going on IR.
I don't think enough people will recognize it, but I think his value does go up. I don't think
Yep.
people will draft him any higher, but I think that is true. Quarterbacks, we were talking about that quarterback three battle. They did a very interesting thing in that third game. They were switching every other series, just to bring the guy in cold, like they would probably do in an emergency situation. And ultimately, the decision was
Neither.
neither. Nobody wins the job. So the Packers are carrying two quarterbacks, obviously Love and Willis, and we'll get into the practice squad later. The Packers did sign a quarterback, and it is neither of them, and that was surprising to me.
Agreed.
But yeah, we will get to that. Otherwise, receiving core, I don't think there is something shocking. The one player that we kind of wanted to make this team was Mecole Hardman, and he did not. So he was the casualty there. Packers carry six wide receivers. So Dobbs, Golden Reed, Savion Williams, Malik Heath, and Dontavian Wicks. Obviously, Watson is still on IR. So once he comes back, Packers will have a decision to make, potentially move a tight end out. Um, but yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah,
Very, very young receiving core once again.
yeah, and maybe this is another situation, right, where maybe something, you know, something that we don't see or something that whatever, that the reason that Mecole Hardman's on his third team in 3 years or was on his third team in 3 years. But to me, what you were saying with Marshawn Lloyd, that's kind of what Mecole Hardman felt like for this offense. Yeah, I guess Matthew Golden's in now and he could kind of provide that spark. But Mecole Hardman, like I said it before, he kind of felt like the not a trick play, but a gadget play, you know, jet sweep, you throw it off screen, just let him go one on one kind of player. Unless Matthew Golden fills that role, I don't know where any of that's coming from to at least to start the year.
Well, the reason to have a Mecole Hardman, like, yes, it's about the gadget play. Yes, it's about things like that. But more so, it's less about what your offense is doing. It's more so about making the defense key for one more thing.
You're right.
And that's what Mecole Hardman was. So Matthew Golden is the Packers wide receiver one, right? There's no
Yep.
dispute. So they're gonna have to key for him no matter what. But if you had a Mecole Hardman where, either he's, running a go, he's stretching that defense, the Packers are trying, they'll give him one target behind the defense every game just to see, just to make you look, make you game plan for it, or he'll come in motion. Like that's the
Yep.
type of guy where defense would then have to have a full install, a full like, okay, we need to pay attention to this guy. We need to make sure that this guy does not beat us. Packers are going to do something. And now without that, it's not Golding because you're already preparing for him. It's not Wicks. It's not Heath. It's not
Hmm.
Savion Williams. It's not Reed. It's not Dobbs. So it's going to have to be a different position potentially. I just don't know what,
Yeah.
I don't know where you find that creative spark on this offense, I guess.
Yeah, to your point, real quick, going back a little bit about, you know, the guy that's not necessarily the guy, right? The Mecole Hardmans who you have to prepare for. I mean, we've seen
Mm-hmm.
guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Rashid Shaheed just make careers off of that. And even
Yeah.
Mecole Hardman to an extent, right? But in terms of like the creativity, Like you don't want to say Tucker Kraft because he's so, it's nice for he's the underneath guy, right? He's the guy that you just get the ball to him in space and he can run. I mean, it is the position where Luke Musgrave kind of fills in. But again, it's kind of a different, he's not. I mean, he's fast. He's not the speed guy, right? It'll be, yeah. I mean, that to me, that's what it seems like. Like, who's the odd man right now? It's none of the receivers. None of the receivers scare you. None of the receivers have that blazing speed. Um, but you get in the 12 personnel, and you know what Tucker Kraft's doing. I don't necessarily know that teams know what Luke Musgrave is doing, right? We haven't seen much of him yet. So I'm wondering if that is where some of the mystery in this offense comes into play here.
It's gonna have to. Like he, I guess, would be the one X factor on this Packers offense that hasn't really been included in previous seasons. That's sort of a mystery of things that they haven't done. Because as good as Matthew Golden is, and how much better he is than Christian Watson, I really don't think they're going to use him much different than Christian Watson. I think he's
Right.
just going to be more efficient in what they do, which is good. But yeah, I fully agree. And hopefully we see a lot of 12 personnel. I think Musgrave, finally having that healthy offseason, healthy camp. Hopefully he can reach his potential because I do think he's a damn good football player.
Agreed.
Um, okay, so offensive line, we have kept 9. It looks like again, Monk went on IR. He'll come back.
Can
He
I
will be the backup center for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just kind of glossed over him real quick. But Jacob Monkey kind of sucks, right? A depth piece goes down. A guy who that they drafted, they have some stock in. He's kind of been that rotational depth piece for him. My point being, again, you never want injuries to happen. I guess if the best time for an injury to happen on the offensive line is like right when everyone's healthy, right?
Mhm.
So it sucks, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and there's enough people who can rotate in on the interior at this point, so it's not that big of a deal. Packers did trade for Darian Kennard from the Eagles. He was on the Eagles. He started with the Chiefs. I think he's a fourth-year player at this point now. He is an okay tackle.
Yeah,
And I talked to a couple people, and I think I know what they're going to do with him. I think we're going to move him to guard.
yeah, sounds about right.
Legitimately, I think that they're going to try him there. And great. Fantastic. So starting 5, I think Rasheed Walker still is the starter at left tackle, but I think a very short leash. And then Banks, Jenkins, Ryan, Tom. We got Jordan Morgan who can fill in at tackle. He can fill in at guard, and they will shift around after that. Donovan Jennings made it as a backup guard. He's disposable. And then Anthony Belton, that second round pick, I do believe, at right tackle. He is someone the Packers will be doing their best to develop. And then other thing on offense, I guess the Packers kept 4 tight ends. Kraft and Musgrave, who we've talked about, they'll be used a ton. They kept John Fitzpatrick from Georgia, I believe.
Yeah,
And
special
then,
team guy.
yeah, I guess. And then they kept Ben Sims, who Gutekunst loves.
Yeah.
He loves that guy. Why? I don't know. Defensively, so the Packers, the big news, I suppose, would be inside linebacker and it would be cornerback, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, defensive front, nothing really surprising. At D tackle, we have Clark and Wyatt. Backing them up is Stackhouse, Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, and then Warren Brinson. At the ends, we got Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness. Obviously, they have Cox and Enikbari backing both of them up. And then Baron Sorrell is also on the team. Uh, Outside linebacker, we got Quay and we got Quay. Quay, we got Tyron Hopper. Inside linebacker, we got Cooper, we got McDuffie, and then newly signed just today or last night.
This
He was
morning.
practicing this morning, yeah, and he was practicing today already. Nick Neiman made this football team, signed him. He's a pretty good player, actually. He's a good special teams player, decent guy to fill in. So that was a pretty good signing that I was happy to see there. Otherwise, cornerback. This is the projected starting cornerback room. Feel happy, feel excited, feel pessimistic, feel however you want to feel. We got Keyshawn Nixon as the number 1 cornerback. We got Nate Hobbs as the other cornerback. And then backing them out up on the outside, we got Bo Melton, Carrington Valentine, and Kamal Haddon. playing nickel more often than not, but I think it's going to be a rotating piece between him and McKinney would be Javon Bullard. I think they're going to have him at the line of scrimmage a lot, but McKinney can move up into nickel and Bullard can move back. And then the other safety then would be Evan Williams starting. They like to have all three of them on the field a lot, even in base packages. And then there's also Zane Anderson and Keaton Oladapo, I believe. So nothing too different there other than, cornerback room. Special teams, thankfully, is the same. So we got Wheeling, we got McManus, we got Orzik.
I just paid Orzek too.
Yeah, they did. And, I mean, good. Let's pay
Yeah,
our
agreed.
special teams guys if they're not fucking up, please. Now, so that's the final roster. That's the 53. Some tough breaks there, not the greatest. Practice squad so far, and obviously practice squad, can be a rotating door. At the moment, we got Christian Welch at linebacker,
Nice.
decent player. We got Will Shepard at wide receiver. He's been here. We got Isaiah Nayer at wide receiver, a big wide receiver out of Nebraska. Aaron Mosby's a D end.
Nice.
He was with Packers last year. Jamon Johnson, linebacker, small linebacker. Jonathan Baldwin is a cornerback. We
Yep.
got Deslin Alexander, a defensive
Yep.
end. Abani Konda then made the team as on a practice squad, so I don't mind that. He's a good player. We got a kicker. We got Mark McNamee. I don't know. He's from Ireland, I believe. Cool.
Yeah, he's that guy that came in and like didn't even get to the hotel and just played the first week of preseason. I think they just want to see a little bit more out of him. Not that we need him. It doesn't feel like kind of feels like a wasted practice squad spot to me. But I don't think I think it's probably one of those situations where they didn't get to see a fair chance at him.
Well, at this point, Packers know what the state of the Packers is when you don't have a kicker. So bring a kicker in, see if he can make kicks. If he can, let's keep paying him. Let's keep him in house because we don't want to come to Friday, Saturday. McManus pulls a hammy, and then all of a sudden we're searching. So I'm fine with that. I don't know why that went away. Okay, so then we also got James Esther, a defensive lineman, Northern Illinois. We got Jalen Simpson, a safety. We got Mecole Hardman on our practice squad at the current moment. I don't know how long that'll happen or how long that'll last. We got Brant Banks, offensive tackle. And then the quarterback that the Packers signed, I would consider it a surprise, is Clayton Tune, who has seen NFL action with the Cardinals. I'm not upset by it. I'm just really surprised that all of a sudden we signed Clayton Tune. How about you?
Yeah, agreed. It's a weird signing, right? With you get rid of Sean Clifford, who's been in the system for a year or two now, and people like him around town, around the locker room. You get rid of El Gersma, who, I mean, Packers have been on record saying, right, if they're going to do a quarterback, they want a guy that they can come in and develop a little bit, and
Right.
kind of make their own, and get rid of him. And now you bring in a newcomer who has nothing to do with the Packers organization. I don't necessarily know. Probably, I'm assuming a lot of guys don't know him, considering how many, right, how many homegrown players Packers keep. It's kind of like a newcomer coming in and you have no friends, you have really no ties. And I'm saying all that to say that Clayton Tune is not, if he's not a starting caliber quarterback, not a horrible quarterback by any means. Like he's a guy who can give him looks in practice and everything. Um, so unless something was, screwed up that way, like I guess I don't hate it, but again, it's the one that doesn't move the needle. It's an interesting signing given that seemed like they had two guys, that they cut that were that were their guys. Um, Again, like this conversation probably doesn't mean anything, right? Because Clayton Tune's not going to see any action for the Packers this year. But it feels an uncharacteristic Packer move to say the least.
It's uncharacteristic. Like I would say Sean Clifford had zero chance to make the team after what LaFleur said. You just said it. Like they wanted someone who they could develop. So we knew Sean Clifford wasn't going to make this football team. El Grisma not making the team surprises me. But Clayton Tune, yeah, just an outside hire. What I will say is you see a lot of practice squad quarterbacks across the league being like this mobile guy and give them more looks. Packers don't need that. They got Malik Willis. So
Right.
Clayton Tune is going to be JJ McCarthy. He's going to be Jared Goff. He's going to be Caleb Williams. So, and just skill set wise, like obviously he's not as good as them, even though they're not outstanding either. Like he can mimic that. So I
Yeah.
suppose they were looking for someone who could do that as well. And I guess he has some potential. I could see this being a short lived practice squad player for the Packers, but in terms of that, like, yes, I suppose he has potential. And yeah, he can certainly fill the need of giving the Packers good looks for this season. Obviously, they start with the Lions. Who do they got week 2?
Washington, Thursday night.
Okay. Like, I don't know if he's Jane Daniels, I suppose, but Malik Willis could be. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that is something to consider when you think of how you build your practice squad as well. Yes, you want guys to develop. Yes, you want guys who could potentially fill in at a moment's notice, but you also need guys to give you good looks. So I think Clayton Tune is that, and cool.
And to
Works
your
for
point,
me.
he's been in the league, for a while now. He's seen NFL action. You're probably not going to get worse than him for a practice squad, right?
No, and like, do I think he's someone you could develop? No.
Right.
So, but I don't know. Whatever, it is what it is. If you have to look, after everything we've talked about, I guess the roster cuts, who made the final roster, practice squad, is there one thing that stands out as most surprising to you?
I think the easy answer here is Isaiah Simmons not making the team. But again, we had a situation, right, where we talked about it, like maybe there's a reason this is his third team in 3 years. He did not look good in preseason. I'm happy Nazir Stackhouse made the team, right? We've seen injuries to Devontae Wyatt. We've seen injuries to Kenny Clark. Stackhouse was kind of a guy who like maybe overperformed a little bit. Not that it's a bad thing, but overperformed a little bit in the preseason and really worked hard to make the team. So hats off to him. It's nice having a little bit of depth at that defense tackle position, just given the couple injuries that we've had. But again, we were on the stream. We do a Buffalo Bills stream. It kind of feels like a similar, run it back. Don't really, there's not really any big splash things. The only difference, right, you kind of mentioned is corner. And that, I mean, I think that probably sorts it. No, it's not going to sort itself out, but I think we have a pretty good idea of what corner is going to be. So I don't honestly, I don't think there's any surprises here. To really say, hey, the Packers really moved the needle, and this team is so much better than the team last year, or this team is so much worse than the team last year.
Yeah. I don't know. It feels like we're playing it very safe, and after an off season, a preseason, where Brian Gutekunst said, "Now we go. Now we're competing." This doesn't seem like the preseason, the training camp that suggests that's true
Yeah.
to me. Like, we didn't make any. And again, what's the biggest rumor right now across the entire NFL? That Micah Parsons is coming to Green Bay. If that's the case, that doesn't solve all the Packers' issues. That doesn't
Mhm.
solve the cornerback room unless he's in the backfield immediately. But that would suggest we're going all in at that point.
Right.
I think anything less than that, I don't know. Like, it just feels like a lot of talk, and we really didn't back it up this preseason to me.
Yeah, I mean, take what you want out of I know they went 2-1. They probably didn't that Colts game was a wash, whatever. That didn't even count as a win, whatever.
No.
And then the first game like might have been the worst football I've ever seen in my life. The third game is, I mean, they played handily, they played well against Jalen Milroe, right? But to your point,
Mhm.
like there was nothing to really say, hey, this team can actually win a Super Bowl. This team is different than in the last 15 years of losing in the NFC Championship to the San Francisco 49ers. So again, not much needle moved. I mean, it's another team that's going to make the playoffs. They'll compete. Yeah, I get your reaction, but it's a team that if they don't make the playoffs, they're right outside. It's right on that fringe team. Come
Yeah.
in like maybe a 6, 7 seed. Maybe they grab a win in the playoffs and then get the shit kicked out of them like we've seen the last 2, 2, 3 years.
Yeah. So, I guess I will say I'm not concerned by anything we saw on the field in preseason. We didn't really play our starters. Who cares? This is my question for you.
Yeah.
If the Packers are to have success this year, and let's call success a playoff win.
Okay. I'd say that's success.
Right. I
Yep.
guess going all in being a championship team, that doesn't suggest that. But let's just say a success for this current Packers team is making the playoffs, winning a playoff game. What needs to happen for that to be true?
I mean, you need, it's kind of easy to say, but you need quarterback play, right? And I think that's still a question mark. And then you need pass rushing, right? If the corners can't, we don't have high expectations for the corners right now. I mean, you're going to need Rashawn Gary to prove that that he's worth that contract, the $96 million that he's getting. You need Lucas Van Ness to make that jump. You need some kind of interior pressure. I don't know if it's going to come out of Kenny Clark. I'm a Devontae Wyatt guy. I like Devontae Wyatt. But to
Okay.
be honest, I think this team, it all comes down, right. And you can say the same thing for a lot of teams, but really for the Packers, it comes down to that pass rush. If they can actually be that pass rush that we drafted and have paid guys to be, I think that this is a playoff team. If we're getting only 60% of Rashawn Gary every game, we're getting Lucas Van Ness having one good game and three bad games. I think it's going to be tough, especially with how good all three offensive lines are in this division.
I agree with that completely. There's a couple other things, but like regardless, we in this these would be the exact same things I would say last year and even
Agreed.
going into the off season, right? Like, okay, this is what we need to do. And so if we just talk about quarterback play, pass rush, we didn't do one thing to address either.
Right.
We are just trusting and hoping, and obviously they get an inside look every day that just by pure development, both of those things will be fixed. And the backup plan for that is nothing. We didn't even bring in an edge rusher. We didn't really draft an edge rusher that can compete. So whatever. And so what's the secondary? So if your plan A doesn't work, what's the plan B? The plan B for the quarterback is having such a good running game. I think this offensive line is an extremely good run blocking offensive line. I think the run scheme is very good. It's Josh Jacobs. What did we do to make sure Josh Jacobs can be successful? We didn't do anything. We didn't address the backup. So now we're putting all the weight on Josh Jacobs, especially if the quarterback play isn't good. All the pressure is on him. And then if that fails, this team is fully done. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
there's even a question. So, like, I just feel like this is a preparation issue or a roster construction issue at this moment. And I don't think this is a bad football team. I don't think they're going to be bad. I highly question if they'll make the playoffs. But in terms of addressing your team needs and making your weaknesses not your weaknesses, or even making your strengths better, I don't know one thing you could point to this offseason for the Packers. One thing. I don't think you can point to one.
Yeah, and to your point, yeah, what's the one thing, right, that moves the needle? And I agree with you. I'm having a hard time figuring out what it is.
Like, I think we made good moves this offseason in terms of re-signing players, but in terms of going from here to
Yeah.
anywhere above that,
But I mean,
I think expectations are the same. Like,
right.
hopefully the absolute ceiling of this team, in my opinion, is we win the same number of games
Yep.
because I think the schedule is that much tougher. So if we can win the same number of games, that's successful. But is that what we're shooting for? And my criticism of this front office the entire time is yes, that is what they're shooting for. Let's win 9-10 games, make the playoffs because we're safe. However, according to Ed Policy, that may not be the case. Policy is obviously 2 years left on LaFleur and Gutekunst's contract. He is not going to extend them. He's going to see. That's why I was wondering if Gutekunst would do something because he
Right.
knows he's kind of has to prove it now. And I'm not sure if returning the same value or mediocrity is going to make a difference. Ed Policy's dad, if people who don't know, he was the general manager of the 49ers when he traded Joe Montana.
Yep.
And Policy mentioned the one thing he learned from his dad, or a big thing he learned from his dad, is how to make tough decisions and deal with those tough decisions. And that is, I think, one thing that's been extremely lacking in the Packers front office. I suppose you can consider the Aaron Rodgers thing a tough decision, but I think they didn't really make the decision. They sort of angered him to the point where he forced that decision. I think policy, if things aren't good, I think he's going to be willing to rip the Band-Aid off. And if we have the Packers season that I fear we might, this could be a very different Packers team next year.
Yeah. I mean, hypothetically going then, say, if he rips the Band-Aid and makes the tough decisions, that leaves the Packers into not only rebuilding an offense and a defense off of which we're still seeing the ramifications of, not having a Devontae Adams and not having an Aaron Rodgers, to now rebuilding a team that we don't have a coach or a GM or, any coaches. So it's like too many, right? It's too many rebuilds, not a full rebuild in the midst of a team that, like you said at the top, is not a bad football team. Um,
No,
so so I think that if this happens, there's definitely um, a lot of a lot of mismanagement, a lot of circles to run into before we can really consider the Green Bay Packers to be, the betting odds-on favorite to win a Super Bowl.
the thing that the Packers got to benefit from for years, and we're talking before LaFleur, before Gutekunst even, is this division was bad.
Yeah,
And I think most people would say this is the best division in football.
yeah.
Now, so like being good doesn't do anything. Good
I
teams are
mean,
going to make playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, as a Packer fan, right, it kind of scares you, right? You see what the Lions have done over the last 4 years, bringing a new coach, building an offensive line, bringing in, getting younger at quarterback. You've seen what the Bears have done even this last offseason with building that offensive line, building that, having that top five defense. Caleb Williams, whatever you think about him, bringing in, a quarterback who has shown that he can play. And you see what the Vikings do, getting a Jefferson, building that offensive line. It has to scare you a little bit. Like this is not the old we have Aaron Rodgers, we can go 6-0 in the division. He's going to throw for, a combined 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns in those 6 games. This is where you actually have to, you can't brute force your way through this division anymore, I don't think.
No, no. Did you know that this is year 8 for Brian Gutekunst as general manager? And this is year 7 for Matt LaFleur as head coach. I heard that today,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like Twilight Zone music popped into my head. It was like,
Yeah.
has it really been that long? We haven't done anything. We made a
Again,
couple conference championships and then blew it up.
Yeah, again, because you get to the same point like we've talked about I think we're on year 5 of this show of just, you're fine doing the same thing. It gets people, people are going to like the Packers no matter what. You're never going to piss anybody off. You're working for a job here, but who cares if you lose in the NFC Championship? You have 13 championships. You're the greatest franchise of all time. It's kind of that idea of let's just keep it steady, keep our jobs, go for those division titles and bow out in the playoffs to San Francisco. I mean, we've been talking about it for, even my entire life. What's like, let's get the superstars. The superstars win the championships. The superstars are the reason that you go to the Super Bowl, you win the Super Bowl. The superstars, the Saquon Barkleys of the world, are the reason why you absolutely destroy the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another thing that's missing. Do I think it gets fixed anytime soon? Probably not. It feels like Ed Policy is in a situation where he can kind of make his idea on what that could be. But again, that's probably a year, 2 years down the line. So I think I mean, Zach, when we do this show next year at this time, I bet we have a very similar conversation as we're having now.
My fear is that, yes. However, no, that'll be what happens, right? For the Green Bay Packers. But if we have a bad season, if we have, first, let's start optimistic. If we have a good season, Lombardi sweeps here every single week, and we're going to enjoy the ride, and we'll talk about it. If we have a bad season, I'm going to make a video completely detailing the whole tenure of Brian Gutekunst with the Green Bay Packers year by year and what he actually did to dismantle and destroy a Green Bay Packers team. And I'm going to enjoy that because just from my memory, he was hired on in 2018. So he immediately Think of what the Green Bay Packers for your childhood was when we were successful. Okay, picture that right now.
Yep.
He immediately released Jordy Nelson
Yep.
when he said he wanted to come back on a discount. And then little into the year, he not little, but he started losing a little bit. Then he gets rid of McCarthy. And then so completely changes the identity, gets rid of the top receiver, gets rid of the head coach. And then you bring in LaFleur, someone who doesn't have any power or experience or really success. And then you make a conference championship against all odds. You really upset your franchise quarterback, made the conference championship. We had Schneidman went on McAfee today and defended Good. This is how he defended Gutekunst, okay? Listen to me. He said the Packers almost drafted Justin Jefferson with the Jordan Love pick, and they didn't want to draft Jordan Love. He did two things there. One, he's defending with hypotheticals, which is the only way you can defend Brian Gutekunst, and I hate when they keep doing this. But two, and I'm switching subjects abruptly, probably to end the show. He's planting the seed, and they've been doing this entire offseason, if you've noticed, that Jordan Love isn't very good.
Yeah.
He's talking and planting the seed about how the Packers did not want Jordan Love. He did say in the same interview, and Jordan Love worked out, which, again, I think the jury's still out. However, every reporter keeps planting these seeds of change.
Fuck yeah.